Oh boy, here we go again. Let's talk today about the Montreal Canadiens. I know, I'll admit, I haven't been showing the Habs as much love as I would like to on the YouTube channel, but that's just because there's so many other topics revolving around other teams and prospects and news that I just wanted to talk about as well. It's not that I'm not in love with the Habs anymore, it's just that there are other things that are cool too. But in this video, we're going over the Montreal Canadiens and what Arpon Basu believes could be a very valuable idea heading into the November 1st free agency period. The scoop comes over here on the Athletic's Ask Arpon Basu article. This one is titled "The Draft Lottery Dominates This Month's Edition of the Mailbag." It was published on July 2nd. Now, The Athletic is paid for content, and because I don't want to share that on a public YouTube video, we're going to be heading over to ProHockeyRumours.com and actually reading what they're saying about the Arpon Basu article. I'll leave a link in the description to both Arpon Basu's mailbag as well as the ProHockeyRumours.com article that goes over Arpon Basu's mailbag. But reading off of the Pro Hockey Rumors site, this is what we're talking about here. It's why we're making a video about this in the first place. In a recent mailbag column, the Athletic's Arpon Basu responds to a question about offer sheets and the St. Louis Blues defenseman Vince Dunn. Basu wonders whether the Montreal Canadiens might be an interesting destination for the 23-year-old blue liner, since St. Louis is currently cap-strapped and they have to deal with the contract of Alex Pietrangelo as well as the future contracts of Schwartz and Jordan Binnington. A significant offer sheet at around $4.2 million would be very challenging for the Blues to match and would bring quite a few questions on whether Dunn is worth that much, since he's not even eligible for arbitration, while only costing the Canadiens a second-round pick in compensation. Montreal is the only recent team to use an offer sheet, having tried to pry away Carolina's Sebastian Aho last offseason to no avail. Hey, we all know the Sebastian Aho thing. That thing was crazy. That thing had the media exploding with rumors and speculation because, oh my goodness, he actually signed the offer sheet, but then the Carolina Hurricanes matched it immediately, and Aho put out onto Twitter that he was very happy to stay as a Carolina Hurricane, and a lot of Habs fans felt used at that point, but the idea of the Marc Bergevin offer sheet has definitely not gone away, especially since it was pushed further by that Aho thing. We've talked about a few offer sheet possibilities for the Habs over the past few months. We talked about Mathew Barzal for the Islanders. We talked about Anthony Mantha from the Detroit Red Wings. And I'm trying to think, is there anybody else? Yes, there is somebody else. Mikhail Sergachev of the Lightning. That's one that we talked about too. But Vince Dunn is probably one of the more interesting ones because out of all the offer sheets that we've talked about so far, I think this one would honestly seem like the most likely to happen. Now, that's not me saying that I think it's going to happen, it's just that if you asked me, hey, out of these guys, Barzal, Sergachev, Mantha, and Dunn, who do you think the Canadiens would most likely offer sheet, my answer would probably be Dunn. Because Vince Dunn is a guy who isn't an up-and-away star-studded player like Barzal is. He's not the best player on the team like the Detroit Red Wings' Anthony Mantha is. Nor is he a bona fide top 3, top 4, 40-point defenseman like Mikhail Sergachev is on the Lightning. Vince Dunn is a 23-year-old, let's just say middle-of-the-pack D-man, a guy who was making $700,000 a year, and a guy whose peak season saw him get 35 points. This past season, he had 20 points. He's noted mostly as an offensive defenseman who's got some really good mobility, a guy who is really good at moving the puck up ice and setting up positions for his teammates in the offensive zone. Furthermore, he's left-handed, so for the Montreal Canadiens looking at a player like this, you see it and you say, yeah, I like it, left-handed D-men, sign me up. But the fact is, he is still young, he's still in his early 20s, and I'm sure that as time goes on, Vince Dunn is going to be one of those players who develops into a legitimate top 4 guy, who could probably max out at a 40-point season once in a while. In my mind, he totally has that potential. It's just playing on a stacked St. Louis Blues team with a good D-core with guys like Pietrangelo and Falk and Parayko, etc., it kind of puts him in a position where he's not the guy who is supposed to get upwards of 30-40 points in a year. He dropped off this past season for a reason now, didn't he? But now the question is the offer sheet route something that you want to explore? He's an RFA this year, and the article already goes over it. The Blues are cap-strapped. They've got commitments they have to do to Alex Pietrangelo, not to mention Jaden Schwartz and Jordan Binnington upcoming as well. There's a lot of money that is going to need to be shared amongst the big dogs of the St. Louis Blues system. It's just that Vince Dunn is not really one of those big guys. Sure, he's valuable, but he's not valuable as a Binnington or a Schwartz or a Pietrangelo. Which is why, to me, this whole idea makes the most sense. The St. Louis Blues' position in the cap is so restrictive that there's a reason why rumors have gone on over the past few months as to whether or not Pietrangelo is going to leave. If Pietrangelo is not a lock, then I don't think you could say the same thing about Vince Dunn. Which is why if the Montreal Canadiens sign him for, let's say, a $4.2 million contract, which will only cost a second-round pick, the Blues are going to be in a position where they can't really match that, especially if they want to keep Pietrangelo and they want to keep the same security with guys like Binnington, like Schwartz, and not to mention Alex Steen and Ivan Barbashev, who also are expiring too. What the Montreal Canadiens lacked in the offer sheet they did to Aho was a team that they were trying to take the player away from that would have been in danger. The Carolina Hurricanes were not in danger when Sebastian Aho signed that offer sheet. It was an offer sheet that they could have very well easily contested and matched, and that's what they did. The only problem was the Hurricanes had a problem with the bonuses that Aho was asking for. But when the Montreal Canadiens gave him those bonuses, but didn't really do anything else that would have made the Carolina Hurricanes want to not match the deal, they just matched it anyway because, hey, they had no choice. It was either pay the bonus or lose Aho. This is a different situation, where the team in question, the St. Louis Blues, legitimately has a sense of danger, because their uncertainties with the cap are so strong. So, if the Montreal Canadiens wanted to go out there and add a guy who next season I could honestly see, if he was on this roster, could play somewhere in their top 4, then I think it would be a really valuable idea, especially for a price tag that would only net you a second-round pick in return if the Blues are unable to match. If the Habs are able to get this, then seriously, it would be a second-round pick for what would be a top 4 D-man who could get upwards of 20 to 30 points, maybe even 35 or 40, playing as one of the top defenders in the Montreal left-hand side. We know Alexander Romanov is the guy who has all the hype, but you could add some other left-handed D2 to take the load off of an Alexander Romanov. Since Dunn is not a highly profiled NHL star like Barzal, Sergachev, or Mantha are, and because he's young and still getting better, there's a lot of room to see why this is valuable. And it's why I'm trying to make the pitch here that out of all the offer sheets the Canadiens can do, this one is the one that I think is the most beneficial for them if they were to actually try it out. The Islanders are in a position where Barzal is pretty much their best player. They're going to make moves to try to keep him. Sergachev is in Tampa Bay, and Tampa, well, they've got the taxes going on over there. The Lightning still have some money that they could free up. And if you take a look at Anthony Mantha, well, he's a guy who was probably the best player on the Red Wings. They have so much cap space too. They can afford anything that the Montreal Canadiens throw at Mantha. But the Blues, nah, what you got is a young player who's got potential to grow on a team that is strapped for cap, and on the other side, you have a Marc Bergevin who isn't afraid to make some salary cap moves and to try out the bold offer sheet. We talked about this in a few videos a few months ago, but Claude Julien and Marc Bergevin, they've been saying this whole time they have a plan. So, we will see going towards the November 1st free agency period, which is only speculation, but it's pretty much what everybody is saying is going to happen. So for the moment, let's just roll with it. Once November 1st comes along, we could see the Marc Bergevin of last year, gun-slinging, Texas a-blazing, trying to go after everybody, just trying to send out these contract offers left and right. So, talk to me in the comments below. If it's Vince Dunn from the St. Louis Blues and an offer sheet is in place, is that something that you see value in? I know for sure it's something that I personally see value in, because when I see Vince Dunn and his long-term projection, to me it makes sense for the Montreal Canadiens to go after a player like this. But if you have any advice on the contrary, I'd love to hear it in the comments. That's why we have a comment section to have controversial discussions like this, etc. So talk to me in the comments below what you think about Vince Dunn and the St. Louis Blues. Should the Canadiens go after this player in an offer sheet? And furthermore, do you think this is a safer move than Barzal or Mantha or Sergachev? Tell me all down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. So that I and bye.